And thank you, Minister. And I too, while I have my own colleague here, I welcome it. But I do feel it is important that when we actually address the topical, that the Minister should be here to address it. And it is very important. Minister, and I'm very respectful that you're here, but I would have the same concern, to be honest. Ceann Comhairle. So, Minister, I was contacted by a number of my own constituency, again, like your own, Carlow, Kilkenny. So some are retained firefighters, some have been from the Gardaí and also the paramedic service, and there's huge concerns within this area of conditions, pay rates and pensions. I'm going to speak about the retained firefighters one now, because that's actually, my understanding is that there's going to be industrial action taken with the retained firefighters on the 6th of June. Now, while they don't want to do this, Minister, you'd be aware of it too. They really feel they have no choice, but they will attend fires. So if there's a fire will be attended to. So my understanding is, again, Minister, that there has been talks with the Department of Public Expenditure and SIP2, and the talks are going on, so we hopefully will have good results on that. But the issue of pensions, if you look at now a retained firefighter that's there now, that has maybe given 30 years of really excellent service, will come out with some kind of a small lump sum. But if you are a new retained firefighter and you are starting, you get so little coming out. You get a very small lump sum, if you get any seemingly. And the other thing is, you're lucky when you reach the age of 60, if you're lucky to coming out with a 12 to 14 euro a week extra in your pension. Now, a number of those in Carlow Fire and Rescue are now forced to retire, even though they very much would like to stay on after reaching the age of 60, assuming they pass a medical, and that's very important. Because, Minister, we are hemorrhaging staff from the emergency services, and this could be a way to reduce a little of the national and local government, that they could look at extending the retirement age across the country. If we need to look at rates and pay and the pension. If you look at, just an example, if you look at Carlow County Council and like other councils, I know you can stay up to the age of 70, it is optional. Now, I understand that that doesn't happen for the retained firefighters, but again, they can work up to the age of 55, but after the age of 55, every year they do a medical until they're 60, but then they have to retire at the age of 60. So what I'm asking is, and what has been come to me is, there are some firefighters out there that want to stay on, they're in very good health, they don't mind doing any medicals, but they have mortgages, they have children that are living at home with them, and they just need to stay on that bit extra once they pass their medical. And the other issue is, Minister, because now the money is not good, and this is the issue, the pay conditions now for anyone starting new is very low. I'll give you an example. I met with, as I said, a firefighter this week, and only a young man, he's not too long started. He told me he went in to look for a mortgage. He couldn't get a mortgage. The banks wouldn't even look at him. They said they could not look at him for a mortgage. So we now have people working for local government, and they are not able to qualify for a mortgage. You know, there's huge issues. I could even speak about the Gardaí. The Gardaí are the same. The challenges with recruiting the Gardaí at the moment, it's got a huge challenge. And Minister, we really, really need to look at that. And again, I'll just go back to our ambulance paramedics, who do an excellent job. There recently, a lady, she had a terrible bad fall in Carlow, and as we know, our ambulance paramedics now, there's a central location, which is Dublin, so everything is centralised and it's based on the telephone call. So they rang for an ambulance. Now, I don't blame the ambulance paramedics, they're doing a great job, but the people that rang said they would be an hour waiting for an ambulance to come. So our ambulance, our fire service came and they helped and they did a lot and they got everything sorted, so well done. So what I'm saying to you, Minister, is if we cannot recruit and we cannot retain the excellent firefighters, our Gardaí, our ambulance paramedics, we need to give them proper conditions, proper pay, and we need to make sure that we can recruit and that someone can go and get a mortgage if they're in that line of work. Thank you.
Minister. And again, the Deputy will henceforth be known as the one and only Deputy Jennifer Murnane-O'Connor. So, again, just happy to address this issue on behalf of my constituency colleague. And again, just to, like the Deputy, just to thank and pay due credit to the incredible work that our fire service and retained firefighters carry out on a daily basis. The pay and conditions for all public servants, including those working in the fire services and national ambulance services, are set out as part of the Building Momentum Public Service Agreement. The Building Momentum Agreement provided the agreed approach to public service pay and conditions for the period 2021 to 2022. It was further extended for 2023 following a review in acknowledgement of the changes to the underlying assumptions with regard to inflation. The pay measures introduced through Building Momentum and its extension amount to total headline adjustment of 9.5% over the lifetime of the agreement. In addition, the extended agreement is weighted especially towards those to lower incomes in light of inflation, the inflation challenge. That is why, taken together, the Building Momentum Agreement and its extension amount to headline increases of approximately 12.5% for the lowest paid public servants. In addition to the general pay rounds, all public servants covered by the Building Momentum, including members of the fire services and National Ambulance Service, have access to a new sectoral bargaining process to deal with outstanding adjudications, commitments, recommendations, awards and claims. Local sectoral management and relevant sectoral union representative associations were provided for a sectoral bargaining fund to be used to resolve grade or sector-based pay claims and outstanding adjudications and awards, or to use as a sectoral general pay round up to the value of the fund. The equivalent of a 1% increase in annualised basic salaries was allocated to the sectoral bargaining fund for this purpose. Where issues are not resolved at sectoral negotiations, parties have access to the established dispute resolution procedures. In the first instance, parties are expected to seek to resolve disputes at a local level to the maximum extent possible, through regular and proactive engagement as issues arise. If this process does not resolve the matter, parties have recourse to the formal dispute resolution mechanisms, including the Labour Court and Workplace Relations Commission. Our industrial relations machinery has served us very well over the years, and that's why I believe it's in everybody's best interest that parties continue to work within these institutions to resolve disputes rather than to resorting to industrial action.
Thank you, Minister. And while I welcome your response, I just think myself, Minister, and I just think across all emergency service, I firmly believe we're going to hit a crisis. And the crisis is that while I welcome that people are living longer, and we all are glad about that, but what's happening is the cost of living. And it's a huge factor now. Everybody has mortgages. Everybody has a lot more outgoings, as we see daily in our clinics. But we are not able to recruit in certain areas. Like, I'll go back again to the retained firefighters. I had another man I spoke to, and I've been meeting with them a lot recently, where he has a part-time job, and then he actually was offered to work for Carlow County Council as a fireman, a retained firefighter. And he couldn't take it because the job that he was in said to him, if you take another job, we cannot have you. So while you have one job which you can't survive on, if you go to look at another job, they mightn't let you keep it. So the challenges within the system is unacceptable. And look, I know our retained firefighters, they don't want to take any industrial action. And I can only, like yourself, say and give them the tribute, the work they do. They come across accidents, they come across, you know, every day there could be people's life loss. I mean, what they go through, and yet they have the love of the job. It's like politics. I firmly believe to be a Gardaí, to be a retained firefighter, to be an ambulance paramedic and all that, you have to have a calling for it, because you are dealing with people's lives, you are dealing with people daily, and that in itself, you know, it can affect you. So, Minister, we have to have proper pay, we have to have proper conditions, and we have to give them the choice that they deserve. And nobody wants to be in this here today, and I don't want to be here saying this, but either do they want to be in a position that they have to fight for a proper pay which they deserve. I would ask you, now I have spoken to Minister Darragh O'Brien, I have spoken to the Taoiseach, and Minister, I am speaking to you. We need to do something urgently across our emergency services, or I believe we could hit a crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, again for raising the matter so passionately as well. And I think I agree wholeheartedly with you in terms of these are people who have found a vocation in the work that they do, and they love their work on a daily basis, and they face huge risk in that work, and I think that is noted. And just to state then, just in terms of the update on the report on the retained fire service, the Government has noted the content of the report, and retained fire services in Ireland a review of recruitment and retention and the future sustainability of service delivery, which contains 13 key recommendations and was published in December 2022. And it's something I've spoken to my colleague Minister O'Brien about as well. Following the publication of the report, management and employee representatives engaged in relation to the recommendations in a process facilitated by an independent party. And this process broke down on the 10th of May, as you're aware, with the staff side withdrawing from the process. Members of the retained fire services have since balloted in favour of industrial action. Formal notice of the action was served on the 22nd of May, setting out 3 weeks of escalating action, starting with a work to rule on the 6th of June. In this instance, SIP2 has not adhered to the agreed dispute resolution process set out in Building Momentum. And just again, you're correct, Deputy, the dispute is primarily in relation to pay. The requirements set out under the Code of Practice on disputes procedures, including essential services to ensure health and safety of both public and firefighters, has been noted by SIP2. Parties are engaging at local level to put in place the necessary arrangements, and efforts are ongoing to resolve this in line with the agreed process. And again, on behalf of Government, I would urge all parties to engage in a positive way to try and resolve this and stave away the necessity for formal action. But again, appreciating how challenging this is for all parties involved. Thank you.